man who lacks purpose will distract himself with pleasure. And, to anyone watching this that is going through something, I can relate to you, but I can tell you this, the first step to solving it is getting in the gym and taking care of yourself. Because without yourself, like I said, you really don't have anything else in this world.
All right, what is going on, guys? I'm here with my man, Prashant. He's been a client of mine for a couple months now. He's been killing it on the program, seeing some great results, not only with fitness, but with self-improvement as well. So kicking it off to you, Prashant, tell us briefly about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. Just for everyone watching, I started with Matt back in January, and I've just recently graduated from college back in May, and currently I'm an engineer by profession. But one of my recent obsessions, of course, has been fitness. Super into weightlifting recently because of Matt's program, but then also started boxing recently too. So that'll be really exciting. Hopefully get into a sanctioned boxing fight sometime next year, but I got to see how that goes over the next few months.
Love it, man. That's what I like to hear. So yeah, I guess we can start with kind of, where you started when you started the program. What kind of got you into the idea of improving your fitness?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fitness is such an extremely important thing, because without your health, you really do not have anything. Everything in your life is extremely dependent upon the way you take care of yourself physically and mentally, right? That's been a big focus of mine the past few months. And it all started really with the gym. As far as how I got started, everyone I think is intimidated at first when they first get in, as I was for sure. But after a while, you realize how addicting the process is. Each week, seeing crazy strength progression, seeing results physically, whatever it is, you realize how important and valuable the experience of going into the gym is. As far as where I started, my bench press max at one point when I first started was like 115 pounds. And then 103 days into your program, I hit 225, right? Ridiculous numbers. And I'm not trying to hype myself up. That is just a really big feat. 225 is every gym bro's goal, right? When they first start. And like shoulder press as well has gone up a lot too. I started with 30 pound dumbbells for reps, and now I'm up to 70, right? As far as weight too, weight's gone down. I fluctuate right now between, 20 and 30 pounds lost since I first started. But of course, continuing to try and cut. When I first started, there was a huge adjustment to learning diet and how my body handles certain foods, how it handles certain drinks, whatever it is. And also, part of the learning process has been experimenting with that heavily. But overall, I think the quality of life I've been living has just substantially improved the past few months.
That's awesome, man. Love to hear that. I can definitely relate to that for sure myself. When I got into fitness, I wasn't the most confident kid, wasn't in the best shape, but the more that I got into it, the more I saw results. That kind of started giving me confidence and really getting me super excited to continue to make progress and, even just improve in all other aspects of life. There's a lot to unpack here. So I guess just, starting with more of the eating component, what do you think has been the most helpful change that you've made?
I think one of the biggest things for sure is intermittent fasting. A lot of people in America, the first thing they'll do when they wake up is have a huge breakfast, super high calorically, loaded with sugar. When you eat like that first thing in the morning, your entire day and energy, is just crashed. I've noticed that too. And when you intermittent fast and you give yourself a substantial amount of time before you have your first meal, I actually feel like energy throughout the day is a lot higher. Overall productivity is a lot higher. Plus, I'm more conscious of what I eat because of that too, right? The first thing you do in the morning should be a difficult thing to do. At first, intermittent fasting will be difficult to do, but I truly recommend it to anybody. Have black coffee and sparkling water, whatever it is, to satiate yourself. But when you have your first meal, make it a meaningful one.
Definitely, man. Yeah. Intermittent fasting is really helpful from a caloric restriction standpoint. Obviously, because it just helps you hit your calorie intake by having more enjoyable meals later in the day. Just because, like you said, a lot of people, including myself, kind of were conditioned to this idea of getting up, having a breakfast. A lot of the options were very heavy in carbs, like cereal, toast, oatmeal, pancakes, right? And even just from like how you feel after that. I remember in school, I'd have a big cereal breakfast and I would just get to school and have like brain fog and just wouldn't feel like as optimal as I, would have liked to. So yeah, that has definitely been a super helpful strategy. And I'm glad it's been working for you. But even just the idea of like getting up in the morning and doing something like a hard task is just, very impactful thing to get in the habit of doing. Even from like a food standpoint, if you wake up and you fast for the first couple hours of the day, when you do have those meals later on, you feel more like you've earned those meals. It feels good to like get up, get things done, and then kind of earn those meals and have more of the satisfaction of fitting in more calories because you've saved them later in the day. So cool stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's super, super nice too on that, like being able to enjoy the foods that, typically on these crash diets, they'll cut out everything. They'll go to the extremes, but as long as you're fitting in things within your calorie amount and also macronutrients, whatever it is, having the option to eat what you want because you're skipping breakfast is a huge convenience.
Definitely, man. And one thing that I've been pretty big on is just tying in lifestyle to your fitness transformation. Just the idea of intermittent fasting and being flexible and saving those calories for later in the day is just very helpful for, some days you might go out for dinner on a Friday, right? And having the flexibility of having meals that are more enjoyable, not always the chicken and rice or the salad, is just a lot more rewarding. And I find it's easier to stick to the nutrition approach when you're not always trying to be super restrictive. Just from a working out and training component, what has been the most helpful change that you've made in terms of just what you're doing in the gym?
Yeah, I think getting in the gym is one of the most overcomplicated things. And, everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to feel good about themselves. There's just it's such a saturated source of information when it comes to what you really should do, right? I think everyone, when they start off taking fitness a little more seriously, they're working out 6 days a week. They have one rest day. They're pushing their body to their absolute max. They're not making any real progress, at least at first, because they're so sore every time they go in the gym. And that is a big issue, of course, right? And I think what the science really shows you is that the results can come with as little as 2 to 3 times a week of lifting. Obviously, you have to go all out when you're lifting those two to 3 days. But those 2 to 3 days, as long as they're quality, you will experience substantial amount of progress. Really focusing on reverse pyramid training, which I know you were probably planning to talk about for sure, but doing your heaviest sets first, pumping those out, because when you do an exercise, naturally you're going to continue to lose strength the more you progress doing it, right? But focusing on those key lifts, doing reverse pyramid training, those things have allowed me to make substantial amount of progress.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's definitely something that's been big too, is just a lot of people don't realize that in order to see great results, you don't have to be lifting in the gym every day, 6 days a week. Because really what it comes down to is if you want to build muscle, progressive overload, right? And that really comes down to, keeping track of the weight and the reps that you're doing in the gym, but then trying to figure out how you can consistently be improving that, right? You really, what it comes down to is each week you want to see if you can be improving either in how many reps you're doing on a set, or eventually adding weight to that set. So that's really the goal, I think, with any muscle building program. From there, what a lot of people don't really take into consideration is it's not just the muscle that needs to recover, it's your whole central nervous system. For example, there are people that might be doing the push-pull leg split. I'll use that as an example, right? Where they do, push muscles Monday, pull Tuesday, legs Wednesday, then they take a rest and they do it again. And that's 6 days of lifting right there. And what people don't realize when you do that is if you're kind of in the habit of lifting back to back, usually it takes around 24 to 48 hours to be fully recovered. So back to really lifting like 2 or 3 days a week, which, obviously both of us have made work for us. You need to kind of push yourself on those sets when you do go and work out. So, if you want to be in your best condition to always be hitting PRs each week, it definitely helps to have your nervous system be fully recovered for that. So that's just something that, for anyone watching this, it's good to keep in mind, where not always is more with building muscle, right? You might think, if you're lifting 6 days a week, you're going to build muscle twice as fast as someone who's lifting 3 days a week. But unfortunately, that's just not
right.
That's just, not the case, right? It's really like having the game plan, but then, giving yourself enough time to recover. So I think that alone is super helpful. Clearly it's been working for us both. So,
right. I think too, like you mentioned physical fatigue. I think too about mental fatigue. Like think about right now, I'm sure your target audience right now is young, probably early 20s, maybe late teens, whatever it is. Right now we have the time to do 6 days a week if we really wanted to, but there will reach a point when, okay, maybe you're getting married, you have kids, your job starts to pick up, whatever it is, there is not going to be that availability to do 6 days a week. And I think starting with a routine that you can follow religiously, doing 3 days a week, that's super manageable. Anyone that says that it isn't, they don't want it. They don't want it bad enough.
Yeah, I think that's honestly a great point that you brought up. A lot of things that, I hear quite a bit is people are like, I want to get in the gym. I want to start improving, building muscle, but I just don't have the time to be working out every day. And really what it comes down to is you don't necessarily have to be in the gym every day. If you can, if you have a busy schedule, literally going from not working out to just twice a week, you could already see good results from that. And then eventually, if you can get up to 3 days a week, maybe 4, if you want to add in a day of more cardio focus, that's really all it takes to move the needle forward each week. So from a standpoint of making it work with your schedule, as long as it can get in, 2 or 3 quick workouts a week, there really is no excuse. You just have to find the time if that's something that you're trying to prioritize. So that's definitely a great point for sure. Anything else from a fitness standpoint over the last couple of months that you feel like has helped you on your journey?
Yeah, I think from a fitness standpoint, people don't understand the power of walking. And you mentioned doing another day of cardio. Sometimes I think a lot of people are turned off from the idea of doing cardio because they imagine it has to be super intensive. Oh, you're jogging on a treadmill, doing high intensity interval training, whatever it is. Simply going for a walk, hitting 10,000 steps a day, that does so much for your health as a whole. Forget about weight loss, like just overall your body function, brain function, also just like it helps you when you go outside, you go for a walk. It helps you practice mindfulness, living in the moment right now. And it's something that everybody can do. You look at our ancestors from so many years ago, they were hunting for their food. They would average, I think I read something online that was like 14 or 15,000 steps a day, right? So to hit 10, I think it's a super manageable task for everybody. In addition to lifting, I think it was definitely a huge thing for my fitness as a whole.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's another great point. If we look back, like you were saying, our ancestors were moving a lot more than the average person today. A lot of people today have very sedentary lifestyles where they're not getting a lot of activity. So, when it comes to just promoting a leaner physique, whether you're trying to lose fat or just kind of maintain your body fat levels, I think just walking, getting your steps in is one of the most powerful things you can do. Just from a fitness standpoint, the reason why I like walking the most for fat loss is because a lot of times, if you were to do higher intensity cardio more often in your routine, you would do that. Maybe you'd burn more calories quicker, but a lot of times you'd finish the workout and you'd just be more hungry. So I find when you just add more walking, it doesn't really affect your hunger. So from a fat loss standpoint, that's definitely a benefit for sure. And even how it affects your strength. If you just add more walking to your routine, you're gonna burn more calories, but it's not really gonna affect your strength in the gym, which is important for fat loss as well. Because if you're doing a lot of high intensity cardio and you're losing strength on your cut, that's when you run into issues with losing muscle, and it's not what anyone wants to do when they're cutting. But yeah, and even like you were saying, walking is just great for your body and your mind for sure. Even if you go for a walk outside, I find it's a great way to just clear your head, really just get present in the moment. And even one thing that I talk about a lot too is this idea of like the power hour, where it's like, if you take some time to go for a walk, you can listen to, a podcast or an audiobook or an interview or something, where you're getting value, but also to help you pass the time. That's me personally. That's been something transformative for me, is just kind of using that time to learn things in the process. But that's a great point. Most people today could definitely benefit from just increasing their step count, whether it's seeing what you're at now and trying to add 2,000 steps or double it. Setting a goal is definitely a super helpful thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what you said is so true. Like nowadays, compare and contrast our ancestors to today. Most jobs are at a desk. Most people are not getting their step count in. It is so important to do some sort of physical activity every day, but not making it something that you can't follow for a while, right? You want it to be a consistent thing. And what you mentioned too with the power hour, like I've been super into audiobooks recently too. And just the way they, people get information from a lot of different sources. I've found audiobooks for me to be one of the best overall, as far as just life wisdom and an overall source of positive information and reinforcement for sure.
Yeah. When you pick the right books and you're able to really get value that, on a topic that you're passionate about, they can definitely be very transformative and really just a lot of value to be extracted from them. I feel like for me personally, growing up, I was never really a big reader because a lot of times what they have you read in school just wasn't the most interesting stuff. It was just you'd write an essay on it or answer questions or whatever. But when you find a topic that you're actually passionate about and you want to learn more about, that's when audiobooks can really be a great thing to add to your routine. So I'm glad that's something that's been helpful for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another topic that I definitely wanted to go over was when it comes to fitness, certain things that are important are, hitting your calorie intake, getting in your workouts. But one thing that's I find is overlooked is just the power of like improving your health through your fitness. Not from how much body fat you lose or how much strength you gain, but how are you improving your hormones, testosterone, and really just how you feel throughout the day. So that's definitely a topic that I feel like would be great to talk about. I guess from a standpoint of all the nutrition changes you've made, do you feel like how you overall feel has changed from where you first started?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you mentioned testosterone, like I did blood work a while back, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not super well versed in all of the numbers, but I did a blood test 2 years ago as well. And I was able to compare some of the numbers. When I see a doctor, and I also have doctors in my family, they're like, okay, Prashant, you're making really massive strides towards improving your health. When you look at people with health complications, a lot of it stems down to, are you taking care of your body or not? People that do take care of their body, they do tend to live longer. They do tend to feel better about themselves. Literally everything is connected. And I guess as far as that info too, for the future, I'm curious to see where I'll be at like a year from now if I do another blood test, right? Because testosterone will increase as you lose weight, and same with other numbers, they'll improve as well. The more you lose.
Yeah, testosterone and even just health and hormones, that is definitely something that a lot of people, I feel like, don't look into as much as just the aesthetics that come with fitness. I can say for myself, what really got me into that whole space was, I remember 2 years ago, I got my blood work done and I tested testosterone. It was just kind of just part of the test. And for my age and the shape that I was in, it was noticeably low. At that moment, I kind of got more into just questioning, like, I never realized certain things could actually be harming your testosterone, and more just about like what changes you can make to improve your testosterone. That's one of the hormones, especially for guys, that it's a good indicator of overall health and how you're doing in that regard. So it definitely is an interesting topic. And, since then, I've been really looking into how we can improve that. There are a lot of different things you can do, but I think really what it comes down to is what you're putting in your body, but also what you're putting on your body. I guess just starting from more of a nutritional standpoint, we could go over just kind of like what things can help improve your health and testosterone. So one thing that I'm sure you can agree with is just, first of all, just improving the quality of the food you eat, more whole foods, more nutrient dense foods. The more foods you eat that aren't processed and packaged, not only will you feel better, but that's going to help you from a hormone and testosterone standpoint. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I've noticed that too. Everyone notices how they feel after eating, fast food, and everyone notices how they feel after eating, a really nice, freshly cooked homemade meal. So I think food selection is a big thing too. But I know you've also sent me a bunch of information too about things like plastic, even being able to ruin your testosterone numbers, like the type of pans you cook in too, having that effect. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
It's kind of crazy how many little things are out there that can impact your testosterone, your hormones. These things, really what they do is I call them endocrine disruptors, because they just disrupt your endocrine system, just hormones in general. But I'll just kind of run through a couple of things that I feel like a lot of people would never realize. First is just the pans you cook your food on. And this is not really something that people would ever stop to consider, but there have been studies where it shows that cooking your food on a non-stick pan or like a Teflon pan can actually harm your hormones and your testosterone. They call them like forever chemicals that, if you're consistently cooking with them, it's not good for your health. And that's kind of crazy. Most people never really think about that sort of thing. But when it comes to figuring out how you can avoid that, two good options when it comes to how to cook your food are cast iron pans and stainless steel pans. Those are the best for just not having any negative health implications. But yeah, so I mean, the pans you cook your food in. Another one is receipts. And I think we have touched on this before, but pretty much every time you buy something, you get a receipt. But apparently the material that they print the receipt on is just loaded with BPA, or whatever the correct term is for that. But it's not very good for your health and your hormones. And if you need to grab a receipt, I would just recommend trying to wash your hands after. But if you can kind of just get in the habit of trying not to touch the receipt with your hands, just because your skin to an extent absorbs certain things, maybe not as much your hands, but it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, those are definitely two things that most people never really would have thought of. A couple other things, really it's what you put on your body too. For example, body wash and laundry detergent. Again, people probably would have never thought about that, but if you look at what's in a lot of these common body washes, or even what's in these laundry detergents, it's just a lot of chemicals, parabens, sulfates that are just not very good for your body, for your endocrine system. So definitely something to consider as well for anyone watching this. For detergent, look for something natural. There's some good options on Amazon. I'll link in the description. And then, for soap, something natural that's, sulfate and paraben free is your best bet. But yeah, those are probably the top things, like the most unconventional things that are affecting your health. So yeah, definitely good to just start thinking about these sort of things.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone listening to this is probably going to think you're crazy, right? For even mentioning some of those things like receipts. Like, I'm sorry, like that's such a crazy thing. But I mean, you pointed me to the articles too with that info, and the pans for sure is something I've tried to avoid cooking in certain types of pans like that as well. I think plastic water bottles too are extremely bad for your health. Like, just get it from the tap or some kind of Brita filter, whatever you're using. But I know plastic water bottles too is a big one.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to 2 points. First of all, the plastic, anything that is a drink or food that's in a plastic container, there's a very big chance that it's been kind of sitting in a warehouse or a truck where maybe the temperature is relatively high, and those plastics can really kind of be absorbed into the food or drink. So yeah, anyone watching this, avoiding plastic the best you can is something that's going to be very helpful for you. Really, it's just the microplastics that leak into those sort of foods they can mess with your hormones and your health. So like you said, trying to avoid plastic drinks, plastic waters, things like that are going to help. But even just from a standpoint of just water itself, tap water, something that I've been looking into, is there's just a lot of things in there that you really don't want to be in your body, essentially. Heavy metals, fluoride, things like that. So that's why something like using one of those like Brita filters is helpful, just to help filter some of that stuff out. But even one thing that I've done is actually, I got this filter for my shower head. Most people would never really consider that, but it definitely helps to look more into like what is in the water, especially where you live. Certain places, there's even a website you can go on. I'll link it in the description, where you type in your zip code and it tells you like what is in your tap water and your shower water. So
wow,
that's definitely something cool to look into for anyone watching this. But it's better to avoid plastics, and then if you can try and avoid consuming a lot of tap water, whether you're using a filter or whatever you got to do. It's just 2 things that will help you from a health standpoint. Another big topic that a lot of people that go on a fitness journey, I'm sure you've experienced yourself, is just once you start to build those habits and see those results, you tend to build this confidence and this self-belief that you start to apply to other aspects of your life. And, I like to use the phrase that fitness is really, the gateway drug to self-improvement. Because if you can start to improve your body and you build that self-belief that you're capable of setting a goal and seeing results, you can start to apply that to other aspects of your life. So I'm curious if that's something that you've experienced in your journey so far.
Yeah, Matt, absolutely. To be honest, it's the entire reason I got in the gym. Right. It was the whole self-improvement element really was arguably the most important thing, even to this day. I'm 8 months into your program and still I'm maintaining the same level of focus I have towards being the best version of myself that I can be. Right. When I first started, I was extremely depressed, and the people close to me knew, but for a lot of the people that I just interacted with on a day-to-day basis, nobody would have had any idea, right? Because I don't know, I was always smiling. I was always generally a happy person, but deep down now, just looking at how much I've evolved. But at that point, I truly hated being alive. It's one thing to hate other people, but to hate yourself, that's a totally different feeling. When you look at people that are depressed, even looking at the life I was living just, a little under a year ago, I would be depressed too. Truthfully, examine their habits, examine the type of life they're living. People feel depressed when they give up. They give up on themselves. They give up on their goals. They give up on, hope for whatever it is in the future, right? The relationship that you have with yourself is literally the foundation for everything else in your life. I look back to how I was before I started taking care of myself and my physical health. I look back at, mistakes I made or things I said, things I did. All of those things, they came from a place where I was not happy with who I was. That's sort of the baseline that's sort of the basis of all human emotion, right? If you do not feel good about yourself, you're not going to be able to feel good about anything else that you experience in your life, right? So for me, this journey, this fitness journey has always been bigger than weights. It's been bigger than seeing numbers drop on the scale. It's been bigger than seeing progress pics every week, and for the self-improvement element to this too, it has cascaded into every other area of my life that I can think about. Obviously, things like posture improves naturally, right? Confidence towards being able to, approach tasks in your daily life, and also just the element of goal setting and going after it, right? Every week in the gym, you set a new goal for yourself. And in that manner too, you do that with life. A man who lacks purpose will distract himself with pleasure is something that I've learned to be the truth. And, to anyone watching this that is going through something, I can relate to you. I understand where you've been, and millions of people understand what you're going through. But I can tell you this, the first step to solving it is getting in the gym and taking care of yourself. Because without yourself, like I said, you really don't have anything else in this world.
Yeah, man. Yeah. First off, I appreciate you for sharing that. I feel like a lot of people are going to resonate with that. I will resonate with that. Like you said, if anyone's watching this and you are not in the best place, one of the best things you can do for yourself is really just start with the fitness. Because when you get into the gym and you start seeing those improvements, what you're doing is you're building self-belief and you're building confidence in yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, it's very easy to kind of have the victim mentality where, why me? Why am I in this circumstance that I'm in? But when you come to the realization that, the only person that's gonna get you out of that situation is yourself, then, you really have to just take ownership of that and just figure out how to create a more healthy relationship with yourself. And with the fitness, when you start seeing those results, you're really proving to yourself that you can be consistent with it. You're putting in the work, and you can set a goal and achieve that goal. So fitness is definitely one of the best things that anyone who's struggling with mental health can really do for themselves, because if you can start to really just build that positive mindset and prove to yourself that you're capable of achieving certain things and improving yourself, then again you can really use that self-belief and confidence to start improving other aspects of your life. And I know you mentioned posture, right? That's another thing that's really important, with just how you perceive yourself and how people will like perceive you too. Because if you walk in the gym, or not the gym, if you walk into any room and you're kind of slumped over and you aren't taking up a lot of space, people are going to perceive you differently than if you walk into a room and your chest is up, your shoulders back, and you're kind of appearing as more of a dominant figure. Not only will you have more confidence in yourself, but people will pick up on that. So it really all goes in hand for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to touch on what you said too, the victim mentality. I think it's something I fell to. It's really easy to feel sorry for yourself. It's so easy. Anybody can pick out one thing in their life that they don't like, at least, and really can develop huge lists with that, right? The first step to any sort of situation in life is to stop victimizing yourself. At the end of the day, nobody truly cares about you besides yourself. You have to be the person that cares about you the most. This should be extremely freeing to anyone listening to this, right? There's a psychological phenomenon. It's called the spotlight effect. People think that they're being watched or being noticed more so than they actually are, because being able to actually get an accurate depiction of how much people think about you, it's impossible, right? Because we are the center of our own worlds. I've seen so many people change substantially over the years. I've seen people come back from really horrible traumas. I've seen people do bad things, and everyone's done something that they're not proud of too, right? I've seen, like I said, so many people just change over the years. But Jordan Peterson said it well once. Sometimes we have to completely die to be reborn, right? And take whatever circumstance you're in currently, really look at it, and instead of victimizing yourself, make the change. Because if you don't make the change, you're just going to continue to go down that path. And another thing to mention too, no matter how far you progress in life, there will always be someone that remembers you for who you used to be. But assumption is the author of error. And like I said before too, like with the spotlight effect, not everyone's watching you. You need to focus on you. And truthfully, I believe this fundamentally, as someone who's hit rock bottom and as someone who has overcome that, it really starts with your health. Matt, I want to thank you so much for the past few months. I mean, you've helped shape my mindset substantially, and you've also obviously helped me with the gym. And, it's kind of cascaded. Surprisingly enough, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, some of them friends, but also some people that I wasn't, super close with, just ask me for advice. Cause I'm very open about struggles I've faced before. And my most meaningful interactions with people have been helping them figure out what the struggle is and giving them the solution. And some people don't want to be helped. You can only lead a horse to the water, right? You can't make it drink. As someone who's done it before, I have really helped some people though. And, just seeing how much people can change. Our purpose in life is to continuously evolve. I really believe that, continue to get better every single day.
That's really some great points that you brought up. And again, I'm super grateful that, to have been able to help you make these changes. And it's been great seeing how you evolved over the last couple of months. But even going back to what you were saying about a lot of people, you might think that they are always thinking about you and you know, the way you look and all the things that you're probably insecure about. But in reality, they probably have just as much or even more things that they're insecure about as well. So, you know, most people aren't really thinking about you the way that you think they are. So, you know, that's really the first thing, is just like understanding that really, you know, the things that you see about yourself that maybe are insecurities about yourself, most people, they're not really paying attention to the extent that you'd think. But like we really talked about, like really just, you know, like the saying you said, like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? You know, really at the end of the day, it's just, you have to want to improve yourself. That's kind of the first thing, is just kind of having your why. Like, you know, once you kind of get past that victim mentality and you say, you know, I really want to work on myself, whether it's fitness or not, that's really the first step. And then from there, just figuring out, like putting some sort of a actionable plan in place to get you there, and just staying consistent with whatever you're doing. But, you know, it's been great seeing you progress over this time.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it.
I guess for anyone who's watching, who is looking to take their fitness more seriously, or, you know, get into self-improvement, do you have any advice for that person who's kind of ready to make a change, but, you know, doesn't really know where to start?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's such a simple question, but also so hard to answer, right? Like, it has to come from within. Like we were talking throughout the podcast, right? If you don't want it, the best coach in the world cannot help you reach your goals if you don't want it, because they know you're going to be getting McDonald's and, you know, cheating when you really should be staying true to your goals, right? The best coaches can't transform someone that doesn't want it. So there has to be that desire, that total shift in mindset where everyone has goals in life. This has to be more than a goal. It has to be more than a goal. It has to be, I want to be in the best shape of my life, and I will not settle for anything less than that. That's different than saying, you know, I want to go to the gym. When you really embrace a goal as part of your identity, you're unstoppable. You really are. Nobody can take that away from you. So I think that would be the biggest thing, you know, figure out your why, like you were saying too. Figure out your why, figure out what it is that's holding you back from that, and then take action. And just a general thing, consistency will always beat talent. Some people have really great genetics, and some people have, you know, insane results, and they definitely worked hard for those. They don't come in a day. You know, you have to be consistent. You have to work hard. It's all connected. It starts with the gym. It'll go into your life. Someone that you can be proud of is what you should aim to be with your fitness journey. That's what I would say.
Love to hear, man. Yeah. You know, really at the end of the day, it's like you said, you want to be proud of yourself, always proud of who you are, where you've gotten, but still, you know, hungry for more as well, and to always be improving. But yeah, and even touching on the whole like identity piece, you know, one thing that I like to say is like, you know, when someone is looking into improving, whether it's with their fitness or not, a lot of times it's not that people want to get more fit. It's they want to become a fit person. And with that kind of identity shift becomes new priorities and new habits.
Final message to everyone: get to the gym. Today's the best day to start. Stop pushing it off. Get going.
Love it, man. Well, if anyone who's made it this far in the video, appreciate your support. That's it for today. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt. See ya.